So welcome back, guys. This video, what we're going to do is set up the collision event between our player and our enemy so that when that enemy hits me, which seems to be quite a bit while I'm playing the game, my player will get destroyed, and on the destruction of the player, we're going to make sure that our lives get decremented. Now, I'd like to point out that we're not going to be deleting our player for real. We're going to do something interesting that is going to, we're going to get everything in place. And then in the next video, we're going to introduce coroutines, which are extremely powerful. And we're going to use coroutines to make our enemy vanish when we've been struck by an enemy, make our player vanish.
Yeah.
And then, so player vanishes and a particle explosion goes off, indicating that, yep, we just died. And then X amount of time later, like 1.5 seconds or 2 seconds, our guy will then reappear in the center of the screen. But we'll talk about that in the next video. Just want you to know that it is coming up. In this one, the first thing that we need to get in place is the on-trigger event. Just like we did over here in Projectile, we've got this on-trigger event that is going to be triggered by Unity when we have a collision occur between a projectile and an enemy. Well, let's go ahead and just copy all of this code just to make things a little easier for us. So highlight it, Control-C, and then I'm going to jump over to the player. And then on the player, let's just come over here and paste this because it'll work just fine. And we already have some stuff set up for us quite nicely. We are going to still need to get a reference for the guy because we are going to need to reset him. Makes sense. And with that, we don't need anybody destroyed. So let's go ahead and kill out the destroy line. As far as our explosion goes, let's just grab him real quick and cut, move him just somewhere out of the way because I'm going to comment him at the moment. And with him like such, of course, we have this not understanding who is our explosion prefab at the moment. We'll take care of that coming up here in just a second. So enemy, and we're resetting him. Player score, I don't think it should go up if you...
well, you did destroy the enemy.
If you get it true. But what we're going to do is we're going to tell the enemy, the player, that his lives need to decrement by 1. So we'll just simply do minus minus. So that's the same thing as saying player.lives equals player.lives minus 1.
Okay.
And we can say plus plus to increment by 1 as well. Now, just to reorganize this a little bit, or to organize it, let me move that up right here at the top. Very first thing I want to happen, boom, you've been hit and killed. Let's go ahead and decrement our lives. Let's get a reference to our enemy. Let's reset our enemy back to the top. Now, at this point in time, we're not doing anything with our player. We're not instantiating an explosion or anything. That's okay. We'll come back to that in a second. Let's just verify that the moment the enemy collides with us, we could even go as far as to do a debug.log and say we've been hit, like such. So we'll save that out. We'll jump back over here, and we will, are we getting hit? Let's see. And we are not getting hit. So let's take a look at what we are missing here. So with our player, and our player has a collide. Check it out. Remember the rules that we established earlier. First rule, at least one of the two objects must have a rigid body on it. We do not have a rigid body available on this guy. If we select this guy here, our enemy, we do not have a rigid body here. So we've already broke the first rule. So I'm just going to grab my player. With my player selected, let's go ahead and come up here to component, come down to physics. Let's apply a rigid body component. And then, as you guys have seen before, I'm going to take use gravity, turn it off, is kinematic, turn it on. By doing just that, now I'm going to come up here and hit play. He comes down. We've been hit.
Nice.
And by bringing this over.
See that in the log.
Yeah, we can see it over here, so let's get hit one more time. And the moment we hit, you'll notice he does not finish. I'm trying to hit just the corner of the player. He is indeed resetting to a random position with a random speed back to the top.
Nice.
Oh, wow, he just slid right down the side. Okay, so this is working perfectly. Let's go ahead and move the console panel off and stop. So let's jump back in here. Now, let's get an explosion set up.
Okay.
So I'm going to link up an explosion. So I need a prefab. So we can come back up to the top and do another public game object. And we can call this explosion prefab. Now I can drag the explosion that we currently have over, or I can duplicate it and change a few things just to make it, look a little different than the enemy's explosion. We use a different kind of fuel.
Sure, change things up a little bit.
So we'll grab our explosion prefab over here, and then with our explosion prefab, I'll just hit Control D, and that's going to duplicate it. I'm going to change the name of it to explosion prefab 2. Okay. Now, we need to change some stuff up. Zach wanted purple really bad at one point, so we're going to give him his favorite color of purple.
Go from white to purple.
And another.
That way it'll be,
okay,
it'll be like really
I'm,
bright at the core.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back to a very, hey Lou, let's go back to a very bright, almost white.
Yeah.
And then we'll just.
And just to kind of gradate your way down.
Yep. And bring it in and such.
Oh, it's turning pink now. It's okay. I mean,
I'm just afraid of how happy you're going to get.
An explosion of pink.
Yeah, exactly. So this should definitely come off as a different explosion.
Different would be the word
than
for it.
Our first guy. So first guy, those colors. New guy, these colors. Okay, so we have that set up. We could do something like our energy. Come up here. So we've got a min of 0.2. Let's change it. Maybe something like 0.1, and so we could go from 0.1 to 0.75. Just so we've got something different. Okay. Now we already have audio set up on this guy. So, and that audio is being told to play when this thing is instantiated, so on awake. Another thing I'd like to point out is that when you are creating your sound effects, make several explosions. So then you could have a different explosion in here too. It just really, keeps the game exciting. So with all of that in place, now what we need to do is our player, if we come over here to the player script, the explosion prefab, the field that we just added, the public field that we just added to the class player, needs something assigned to it. So let's grab Zach's explosion and drag it over here. So now that we have that in place, we need to do something to instantiate it. And we've already seen how we can go about instantiating these prefabs. So we can just come on down here, take we've been hit out because, well, we know we've been hit. And then we can simply instantiate this guy. But the position in which we instantiate him needs to be what, Zach?
Location of the player.
It needs to be location of the player. So that means I can just come right in and say transform dot position. As a matter of fact, aren't we caching this guy, or was that on something else? Projectile prefab, blah, blah, blah. No, it was over on the projectile, so we did need to do that. And then we'll do quaternion dot identity. So there we go. Let's go ahead and save. This is going to instantiate, make sure that is what we called it, explosion prefab. This is going to instantiate whatever has been assigned or linked back over in the inspector, which is explosion number 2. And it's going to put us at the player's position and no rotation whatsoever. We're going to be lined up with the world. So with that being the case, let's come back here and give it a quick shot. So we're playing. Let's get you killed. Boom. Oh. And we now have little purple puffs that come off.
That's not purple.
Pinkish puffs that are coming off. Very pinkish. So there you go.
Yeah.
Pretty simple.
Absolutely.
And let's reach over here for some sound and play with some sound. And yep, we're getting hit.
I hear explosions.
So excellent. The next thing that I would like to do is have him disappear, because I'm not a big fan of seeing him stay visible after I die. So that needs to be set up somehow. We're going to look at that in the next video. But before I sign off, I do want to point out that our player -- is indeed working.
Yeah.
Our lives are currently at -5, so and -6 as we just lost another.
Yeah.
So our GUI is working just fine, our little HUD here, and everything else that we've set up so far is working fantastic. So in the next video, let's see what we can do to make this guy disappear for a second and a half or 2 seconds and then reappear back in the center.
Okay.
So that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks, guys.